is this place?
Studio Ghibli movies are the quintessential movie critic kind of movie. It is art manifest in cinematic form and comes from an animation studio I personally am not too connected to. I never watched these kind of movies as a kid, and I kind of got into the Studio Ghibli movie aesthetic way off into my early 20s, which is far too late for the normal human, so I don't have the same kind of childhood attachment to Spirited Away and all that. In fact, for a long time, I couldn't really get into these kind of movies. Spirited Away is not my kind of movie. I'm more of a Nausicaa or Princess Mononoke kind of guy, and if you had shown 20-year-old me this trailer for The Boy and the Heron,
a lot of strange things happen in this place.
I probably wouldn't have batted too much of an eye at it. Studio Ghibli has its own barrel of tropes that it seems to just rehash and repeat out to the unknowing viewer, since this movie looks just like every other Studio Ghibli movie. The character designs are the same, there's always a fire animation, the color palettes are reminiscent of every other movie made by this studio, and oftentimes the stories come out as slow and drawn out and confusing and always about grief. There's always a theme of, oh, they're actually dead, they're dying, someone's missing someone, there's loss. But I'm a little older than 20 now, and I can appreciate these movies a whole lot more for what they are, without having that more emotionally young connection to these clearly magical movies. A different kind of magic to Disney, but magical nonetheless. Now, the most recent news to come out of Studio Ghibli's The Boy and the Heron is the new release of the official trailer for the English version of this movie, and I didn't need to be a 20-year-old nobody to understand that being a voice actor in a Studio Ghibli movie is a big deal, and there are some major casting choices that have appeared in all sorts of prior Studio Ghibli movies. In the past, we've seen the likes of Patrick Stewart, Shia LaBeouf, Mark Hamill, Dakota Fanning, like there's so many I could list off. And this film is very much copying the same. Not only is Mark Hamill here again, but we've also got the likes of Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson, Christian Bale, Dave Bautista, like so many iconic actors all coming together for this movie. And from what I've heard, some of it is absolutely fantastic. The prominent star, of course, being Robert Pattinson as the Heron, which clearly sounds like it should be Willem Dafoe, but no, it's Robert. I don't know how he did it, like, listen to this.
Dear mother, she's awaiting your rescue.
Such incredible talent from clearly the top line of some of the best. Now, this movie isn't actually the freshest news in the world. It already came out in Japan way back in July, I believe. And back then, it was a box office hit. As I understand it, it is basically a quintessential Studio Ghibli movie, coming off of the legendary 82-year-old Miyazaki with all of his breadth of knowledge and experience. This very much seems to be a kind of farewell from him. As much as they say he's not finished, this could very well be the final full stop, at least in thematics. Not only with the more classic themes of grief and loss, but apparently there's a whole degree about legacy and mortality to an extent far more than previous Studio Ghibli movies.
What exactly are you?
Alongside a full theatrical release already existing in Japan, we also have now more reviews coming out from prior film festivals. I also found out, actually, there is a screening going on near me on November 12th, but it's already sold out. Had I known that there was just a film festival I could have hopped over to, I would have done, but I'm still getting used to this thing. I'm not one for keeping up with events, apparently. Even still, what's interesting is, and I'm not going to go into proper spoilers, the reviews on this movie seem kind of mixed. From what I'm finding in my research, there's a whole breadth of different takes for this movie. And I think it's because Studio Ghibli movies in general can be so thematically vague. There's so much up to interpretation because it's so damn artsy. Some reviews saying that this movie is slow and very much not Miyazaki's best compared to Spirited Away, whilst others have literally said the opposite, saying that the pace never slows with too much coming at Mahito for anyone to absorb in one viewing. Somehow it's both, and I think it very much does come down to individual feedback. Or maybe it's because critics don't actually know how to pass down on this movie, you know? It's such a clearly important movie that, of course, the scores are going to be up for someone like Miyazaki after his long career, whilst also maybe these kind of movies just aren't for them.
Go back! Now! Or
As I understand it, not only is the movie very much thematically summing up his career and his legacy and look forwards towards mortality, but it also has so many of the tropes of Studio Ghibli movies that it feels like a giant love letter to all of Studio Ghibli films, referencing so many events and elements of his prior works. Even from just the trailer, we could already see there is another spirit world, there is a magical castle of some kind, and it's all based around World War II. If you like Studio Ghibli movies, you're gonna really like this movie, and if you're not really a fan of Studio Ghibli movies, this might not be the one for you. It is the quintessential Studio Ghibli movie. But from what I've seen in the 2 trailers that there are, this movie apparently needs minimal marketing, they're just that godly good, I am myself pretty darn hooked. Clearly being all about the grief that this main character Mahito has for his mother, being guided into the spiritual realm by this Heron to find his mother, and then learning all sorts of lessons along the way, while just a bunch of weird animated stuff happens. Classic, you know?
Save me.
Save me, my dog.
What we know directly for the actual synopsis for this movie, and this won't be going into major spoiler territory, is as World War II continues to rage on, 12-year-old Mahito is relocated to his father and new stepmother's country estate. While he struggles to settle into his new life and grapple with his mother's tragic death, his strange new world suddenly becomes even stranger. He encounters a mysterious talking heron who informs Mahito that his mother is still alive. Determined to find her, he ventures into an abandoned tower which whisks him away to a fantastical realm filled with creatures both strange and familiar. And though I am pretty comfortable just watching this in Japanese with subtitles, I do think there's something to be missed if I don't watch the English version as well. Not only just for Robert Pattinson's incredible take on the Heron, but I mean, Willem Dafoe's in it, and I don't think we hear his voice in the trailer, and everybody else for sure is gonna be just absolutely immaculate. Although I am almost certain at the end there'll be theories going around about, oh, he was dead the whole time, and you know, they say that about Spirited Away, don't they? That the 2 girls are actually dead and the parents are grieving and that they act weird at the... You know, there'll always be stuff like that. It's very thematic, I think, to the thinking of Miyazaki as he's gone throughout his career. Plus, what I'm hearing from multiple sources in reviews, this movie is incredibly rewatchable. A lot of the themes or a lot of the elements happen so fast and at such a degree that rewatching it gives you more of a sense of the scale of the entire story being told. This is an incredibly artsy movie for incredibly artsy people. The kind of movie that's perfect for dissecting down and trying to look through different lenses. And I wouldn't be surprised if I try to do the very same thing, as much as some people have said that would kind of ruin the magic of these Studio Ghibli movies, but art is there to be enjoyed in any capacity, I think. Not to mention, of course, it will never be confirmed this way, this could very well be the final proper Studio Ghibli movie we get by Miyazaki himself. And as a send-off, it sounds like it is ticking all the necessary boxes to do so. With a movie that is said to be far more emotional than anything we've had before, clearly because it is written with such genuine emotion behind it. With so many genuine reviewers and critics saying that this is the ultimate Studio Ghibli movie, bringing in everything together and summarizing all of Miyazaki's career and experience and prior films together, this sounds like potentially the very best finale that Miyazaki can give us with a Studio Ghibli production. And so though Japan's gotten it 5 months prior and a bunch of film nerds got it a month or 2 before, we still have 1 more month to go, with this movie coming out December 8th or the 26th in the UK. I'm getting 2 dates at the same time. Either way, it's a final Christmas special for the end of 2023. And I, just from seeing this trailer, am incredibly hooked. 20-year-old me probably would find it a little bit boring and a little bit slow, but I think now I can really appreciate the slower moments that this movie is going to present, at least for the early beginning stages as I understand it, because oftentimes with these stories of mortality and death, a lingering message that comes out of these themes is usually to enjoy the little moments, to allow yourself to slow down. In fact, the original title of this movie wasn't even The Boy and the Heron, it was How Do You Live? So clearly about following a lifestyle that is satisfactory before it is snuffed away. But whether this movie ends up nailing the delivery when it comes over here to the West, or is simply just a bit of an artsy-fartsy flop, I guess we'll have to see. I mean, we probably already know the answer. Maybe it will cause a giant divide in the audience. I don't know. But I guess we've only got 1 more month to wait for it. This is the kind of movie that is perfect for a super movie fan, and potentially it stands as the best that Studio Ghibli will ever make.
I know it's a lie,
but I have to see.
For now, my name's been Daz. You didn't really care. I can't wait for TikTok to immediately ruin the essence of this movie by making some doofy sound of the heron going like,
Your mother. She's alive.
and then they'll stitch it to like some other movie that has a plot twist similar. You know, I can see whatever line Robert Pattinson makes will just become a meme somewhere in some sound. But we'll get there when we get there. And I'll see you in a bit.
There's more work to be done.